Assalamualaikum everyone. RF Khan here once again with Islam Media, and welcome to the podcast. Today we're going to be reviewing Week 8 preview, as well as the games from the previous week as well. So without further ado, let me get my boys in here. Hanan, Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
As well as Mr. Isawi.
Assalamualaikum. I was supposed to put the link into the Islam chat. I'm doing that right now. I'm not texting while driving.
You're late. All right, no worries. And as every week we've been trying to get a special guest to join. So this week we have a treat. Our special guest is none other than one of the GMs for Team Yellow Suburb, and we have Shahid. So let's bring Shahid in here. Assalamualaikum, Shahid.
Walaikum assalam, man.
How you doing?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. So thanks for making time to join us here today.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. Sorry.
Right, so you've been following our podcast, right? So you know the drill. You know what's up. So we will jump right into it because we got a lot of stuff to cover here. So let's go. So first, as always, we're going to do a recap of last week, player transaction league announcements, as well as Week 8 schedule review. But we're going to change it a little bit this week, where since we only have Shahid for a little bit of time, we're actually going to do the recap of Yellow from last week, some transactions, and the preview all at once, so that we can let Shahid go. So we'll jump to that right away. Where did it go? So we'll go to this one first. So last week, game number 3 was actually Suburb versus Taqwa, Yellow versus Black, and this ended in a 5-5 draw. So Shahid, obviously we were in this game. Give us your perspective on what happened there.
We had a slow start. Actually, we made a comeback. We were down 4-1 at a point, and then we take the lead, and then they came back to win it. I mean, tie it 5-5. Or
I believe you guys tied it up. So it was 4-1 heading into the second, and then you had 3 straight goals at the end to tie that up.
Okay, so yeah, it was a good game, to be honest. They picked up Mohamed Manja, right?
Mm-hmm.
He made a big difference to their game. I think he scored a goal.
What do you think our strategy was that we didn't do because we fell behind pretty quick? What do you think? Why do you think that happened to us?
I don't think we were running enough, to be honest. But we were keeping pace. That's the thing. We weren't pushing, and that's what we needed to do.
Right. Omar, from your perspective as an outside, what do you?
So number one, I mean, I don't know if Taqwa was listening to the podcast or not, but last week we criticized them, or I criticized them rather, for pulling up to the blue line and taking shots and not, really getting close to the net and trying to generate offense from places where I think their players are better suited to create offense from. So the first 4 goals that they scored were all from inside the blue line. And they were closer to the goalie than we're used to seeing. And it worked out for them, right? So I think that they should keep it up. I think that these two teams, I mean, we'll get to it, but there was some movement, and I think that Taqwa strengthened in some areas, and so I think that I'm excited to see what they're going to bring next week. I think they're supposed to be playing Ehsan, so I'm not too excited, but we'll see exactly what happens. But no, it was commendable and just as commendable that despite falling behind 3 goals, Suburb was able to roar back really and come back. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that it was more or less the third line guys, right, that really tried to pull them back into it. So kudos to them. Is something that we've been praising them for since the beginning of the season. And again, like two very good teams, and it was exciting and really a treat to watch.
Hanan, this is Taqwa's first point of the season, even though probably they were pretty disheartened by losing such a big lead, but at the end of the day, they still seemed happy because they got their first point.
I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't be happy if I was them. Like when you have a 4-1 lead going into the second, that to me, it's kind of like, case closed, just play proper defense and you're solid. But, coming back from, having, Suburb catch up from a 4-1 loss, for me, Suburb's probably going into their locker room thinking, yeah, the fact that we got away with a tie here is a win for us. Whereas Taqwa was going back into the locker room thinking, what fell apart? We ended up playing half a period, but we couldn't play the other half. So I'm not too impressed with the Taqwa played. I like seeing that you saw a lot of third line effort with Riaz and Madni Daniel scoring goals. But the same thing with Suburb, you said like a lot of it's that second line effort with Khalil, which Suburb traded, and Abdul Nafia Zuberi, which Suburb traded. And it's starting to wonder. Like I saw a lot of movement from Suburb, so definitely later on I'm curious to hear a lot from Shahid in terms of some of those moves that they did and what the mindset was behind that.
Yeah,
with the trade.
Yeah, so in fact, let's go to that. There was several transactions, and one of them was, here we go. So this was a big trade. 8 players changed hands. So Sabr relinquished Yasser Hussain, the goalie, Abdul Nafia Zuberi, Ali Mahmoud, and Omar Baksh, and in return, we got Arif Bijabhai, Bilal Hafiz, Riaz Hussain, and Zaid Maju. So I know, Shahid, before the trade deadline, the three of you, the three GMs, you guys were really busy talking with different teams. What precipitated this big trade?
So we were getting offers for different guys. This was one of the main offers that we were looking into more heavy, especially because the goalies were in play.
Mhm.
We we were looking for speed, and I think that's what we found. We usually have a slow start to the game, just like how we had last weekend. We came back, but I think these guys will bring us that speed that we need to keep us going. I like to start fast and then to finish hard as well.
So we don't see a lot of goalie trades happen. I think it's only happened once in past Islam history. So this is a pretty novel thing to do. Um, you know, our goalie, I guess our former goalie Yasser, he was playing pretty well. What led you to trade him for I guess Maju as part of the deal?
It was just it's what made this deal. Like I said, it made it more heavy. Zed Maju is a big part of. It's funny to say, me, Hamza, and Yusuf all grew up learning from Zed Maju, and to now we picked him up in the draft.
Nice.
Sorry, we're not in the trade now. To have him on the team, I think it's a big part of what we did growing up with hockey. So it
Right.
means more than just a goalie trade, I think.
Yeah. In fact, because of such a big trade, another one almost goes under the radar, which was this one here. You also made a trade with Ridda, a 1-for-1 between
Yeah.
Khalil Kokar as well as Junaid Alvi. So talk to us a little bit about that move and why that happened.
So Khalil was a big part of our game. He played amazing every night. It's just opportunities came up. We're new to this league. We wanted to try things, so we didn't mind making trades. Khalil with Javid was a good trade for us. Junaid, sorry, and so we just took our chances just to see if
Yeah.
it'll help us out.
Well, I've played with Junaid before, and he's a really good player, very fast, in good shape. So hopefully he'll be a good contributor. Let me go to Hanan here. Hanan, what's your thoughts on both of these trades? And if you had any questions for Shahid.
Yeah, so obviously, Shahid, I imagine you and your GMs are familiar with Junaid's game, and that's why you approached having this trade set up. From Ridda's side, playing with Junaid myself, fast guy. You definitely get someone who can do both the offense and defense. To me, I'm a little shocked that Khalil got traded. I feel like he brought a lot to your team as well. So I think at the end, this is going to benefit both teams. Junaid was off on a slow start, didn't really have any points, but he contributed defensively to Ridda's game, which really helped him out. So Khalil's going to bring a little bit more of that offensiveness, where Junaid's going to bring a little bit more of that defensiveness finesse for Suburb. Now that big 4-on-4 trade, that's huge. And the thing is, I actually appreciate it. I like the fact that you just said that you're new to the league and you want to try out something different. I think that's pretty admirable of you, just to kind of get a little bit of sense of how other players in the league play. For me, my question for you is that being this first time in the league in this division in Iceland, like how are you feeling about the league? Like this trade definitely is going to allow you to open up to see other players that you've already probably seen and played against. But like, how are you feeling getting this late in making these trades? Like, is your team ready? I don't want to say ready. I mean, we're all talking about facing Ikhlas in the finals. Like, that's the mindset everyone's going into. Do you feel like what you've done thus far before the trade line makes you confident?
So I would like to say first off, though, we weren't looking to trade these players. The offers came up and we took them as it was. It wasn't like a quick one-day transaction. We had talks going for quite some time. Hamza, the other GM, who's actually here with me right now, I'm trying to get him to sit down with me, but he keeps running away.
Get him.
Anyways, sorry.
Yeah, you're saying how like you didn't push necessarily for the trade.
Yeah. So even to the guys that are on our team that we traded, it wasn't that we were looking to trade them. It's just it happened to be that we got the right offers for these guys, and
I see.
I think we benefited. And you know what? Everybody has a different game style. So I mean, one piece will fit one team, and the other will fit the other. So
100%.
We'll take it from there. And I know it's a little bit late in the season. How you're saying, are we ready going into the playoffs? I think we still have quite a few games to get into it, and our core is still there. And Alhamdulillah, Arif is still going to be playing for us, which is huge. Alhamdulillah, he's still on the team.
Well, I'm glad you didn't ship me off. For those who don't know, there was some concern about some medical issues that I have to deal with. That almost caused me to miss the rest of the season, but alhamdulillah, we don't have to worry about that. So inshallah, I will be there. This week, I'm still not sure. I'm in a little bit of pain, but inshallah, I will still get the games. And I'm really excited because as much as I'm going to miss the players that had left, because we had a great time playing with them, I'm really excited to get the new guys on the team, because that also opens up a lot of really interesting line combinations and whatnot. I'm going to get Omar in here. He's been awfully quiet. I know he has some thoughts he wants to share as well.
I mean, with regards to the trade, you mean?
Yeah, I'll trade. And then if you had any questions for Shahid, or even Hamza, who's probably hiding in the back, I'm sure Yusuf's there too.
I mean, I think they're all there, but I mean, I think you guys covered it for the most part. I mean, just in terms of the reasoning of the trade. And actually, one of the questions that I have is, have you guys given any thought to kind of what your forward lines look like now?
I wish I could get one of these guys to get on to explain that to you guys.
Just turn the camera towards them and put them on the spot.
No, they can't even hear you guys.
Okay.
They're way down there. Anyways, sorry. So what was that?
What kind of lines do you think this new combination is going to present?
It helps out the second and third for sure. It adds a lot of speed, and that's I think what we're looking for. I think it improves the second line, improves the third line. So
yeah, I think for us, we have we've had Tahir playing defense, which is he's great on it, but Ali was injured, so we couldn't have our usual defenseman. So Tahir kept playing defense, which meant that we were missing a center. So now that we have Bilal, hopefully he can play defense, puts Tahir back in on the center first line or second line, and that really balances everything out.
Yeah, it's a huge it's a huge help. Bilal Hafiz coming onto the defensive squad
Yeah.
Oh,
for
I
sure.
think so too.
And
I
then
think that Suburb becomes a very strong team post trade, provided that specifically Arif and Bilal can play the way that the league expects them to play, right? And I think that if they're able to,
You're referring
bring
to
that
Bijabai,
pedigree.
right?
Sorry.
You're referring to Arif Bijabai?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because now we got
Yeah.
two
The
Arifs.
oh
other
yeah,
RF is
yeah.
playing just fine. Uh, um, but I'm talking about RFB, and if they're able to play the way that the league expects them to play, then I think that Sabra is a force to be reckoned with, especially in a very very tight division. If I'm not mistaken, Hana will know better than I do, but it's very very close right now.
Yep, 9 points, and 8 points respectively across
Yeah.
the top three teams in that division.
So Hanan, from the point of view of Taqwa, what does this trade do for them?
It's a shakeup. To be honest, it's a good shakeup. It's a good way to reset. It's a good way to ground their morale so
Mhm.
that your team's kind of changed. You got new players to play with. What you had previously, it wasn't working either. The pieces didn't fit. So now you have new players to try to play into the system and have a buy-in from Farouk and the Patel brothers, and hopefully they can move forward from this. They are still a strong team, but I think this shakeup allows them to reevaluate how they want to maneuver their pieces on the second and third line, especially.
Okay, cool. All right. We are going to move on to again, today's format is a little bit different since we have Shahid here. We're just going to go to the first game of next week or this Friday, which is Suburb versus Iman. So again, Shahid, what's your outlook on this first match, yellow versus orange, especially with our new look team?
It's going to be an interesting game. I honestly I can't say. Who are the GMs on Orange?
Jihad Yusuf and Osama Soliman.
Okay, sorry, I don't know who's who.
It's okay. Honestly, they don't even show up during half their games. Nobody knows.
No, I know those guys though specifically. So yeah, I know I could I know the team
Yeah,
overall. I think they're a good team for sure. Uh, it's going to be interesting. I think our team. The good thing is the new guys we picked up are going to come with some hype. Goalie change, new defense. Tahir's back as forward. Arif's going to be there. So I think we're going to play one of our best games of the season this coming week.
inshallah. Any word from Asim? He's been missing for like several weeks now. He's a huge part, right? First
For sure,
overall.
for sure. And I'm hoping he starts showing up. He's got his own reasons, but he'll be there when we need him, I guess. I don't know
Inshallah,
what else to
inshallah.
say. Inshallah.
No, I'm really looking forward to it. So hopefully it'll give us, like you said, at least a couple of weeks to try out this new team. Make sure that all the people can sort of gel before the playoffs start. So looking forward to that. With that said, Shahid, I really appreciate you taking the time to come here. We had you said you had Hamza and and Gibi in the back. Give them our
Yeah,
salams.
I will, inshallah.
Where did that nickname come from, Gibby?
Chickens.
Chickens?
No, I'll tell you one day. I'll tell you guys in person.
So Badger can't tell us because it's a PG show. You can't tell us, and apparently your nickname
Oh,
is Cod too.
yeah, that's what
What?
they call me.
All right, that'll be
Yeah.
for another time.
Fun facts.
Fun facts.
Fun facts.
That's
All
it.
right.
Thanks
No
for
worries.
having me,
All
guys.
right, Shahid.
Appreciate it,
Thank
man.
you so much, and inshallah we'll see
And
you on Friday.
I love the work you guys are doing, man. Appreciate it. Take
Appreciate
care.
it,
Islam, man.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum.
Salam, bro.
Welcome.
Walaikum salam.
All right. So let's get back to our regular scheduled program in the sense that where are we? Here we go. Right. So let's go back to last week. So I think the first game was hang on.
Yeah, the Jaquin versus Hayah.
Yeah, great. I'm looking at 5, and that looks like the black team. But yes, Hayah versus Jaquin, and this was a 5-1 win for Hayah.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'll say this: long overdue for Umar Mahmoud to be the first start. Like he's
Mhm.
been a working horse, a grinder. Like he stepped up. If any player was going to step up in Hayah's team on their short bench today, I'm glad it was Umar Mahmoud because he led the charge on both goals. He definitely came alive now that he's playing with Mohamed Bilal on his line as well. I do expect to see more from him, and I wouldn't be surprised if Lukman just, he's like, this is working. Let's continue to have Umar Mahmoud pushed up to that line and diversify the rest of the remaining team. Whereas Jaquin is completely falling apart, and it's imploding from within, and you can almost see it from the way their attitude is on the bench as well. Is that you got to keep showing up, you got to keep moving forward, and you got to, even for the new players in the third lines, just keep working on making sure that they understand their assignments. If you're not going to be scoring, at least ensure that the goal doesn't go in on your net.
I agree. I mean, I agree. Sorry, I didn't realize camera was on me, but
Sorry, I should have.
yes, sorry.
lined it up for
I
you.
and look, I think that Hayah has sort of, again, like I think Hanam just said this, right? They have come alive a little bit, and they just look like that first or second place team that we had billed them as in the beginning of the season. They played physical, they played in position, and unfortunately, I think that they exposed the lack of attendance on Jaquin's part. I know Arsenal was missing. And they just traded away Kadir. I think Mohamed Kazi had to play defense. Huzaifa was away. And so there was definitely personnel deficiencies on behalf of Jaquin. And unfortunately, Hayah took advantage of, unfortunately for Jaquin, Hayah took advantage of that, right? And I think this is the second week now that I would say that maybe they've let down Badger a little bit. Or maybe Hanan didn't say mashallah last time. He praised him. And I mean, I know that he was upset last week. I know he was upset the week before. So he's still on the team, and I still recommend that there's some, they do some kind of, team, maybe like they need like a team retreat or something like that. Like maybe they need to go to Church's Chicken together, and and really hash this out and figure it out over a fried chicken sandwich. But Jaquin needs to figure it out really quickly.
Let me ask you this. I mean, Jaquin has they've been averaging 1 goal per game, right? You're not going to win a lot of games with that. I don't want to lump Red into the same team, but have some of these teams checked out already?
Are you asking me about Red?
Both of you guys. Like,
I mean, the thing is for Jaquin is that we did see I call it secondary scoring because Furkan scored, but I mean, he could be on the first line for all I know. But it's tough. Like, I think, with GMs not showing up, it makes it a little bit more difficult to rally your team. And I think Huzaifa was a big factor in Jaquin scoring. And when he's not there, you want the rest of the GMs. You need Kazi, you need Mantra to step up and do something. Score a goal or set something. I know Mantra got a 1 assist, but you want them to do more, especially on a team like Hayah, who had only, I think, 2 or 3 subs on the bench. This was their moment to capitalize, and I feel like they probably underestimated what Hayah was bringing.
Well, to that point, right, is that, and I can maybe relate to this somewhat on Ehsan, is that when a key part of your offense is missing, it almost jumbles everything up and throws everything off. Like we missed Hamza last week, and the team didn't look the same at all. And when Hamza's there, the team looks completely different. So I would venture a guess to say that something very similar is happening when Huzaifa's away. And when Huzaifa's away, right, they're a slower team, and their offense basically takes a hit, right? So I think that at least for this home stretch, they really got to figure out how they're going to get attendance. The same thing with Ehsan and some of these other teams that need it, right? It's like, are you guys going to commit to coming? You have 3 games left before the playoffs, and it really does have some significant implications, right? Because if you are in the bottom 2 seeds of your division, then you almost go into the playoffs. Well, not almost. You do go into the playoffs down 1 game in a 2-game series, and so you have to look. You have to just a must-win game, right, to take it to overtime and then possibly a shootout. So you got to go. You got to do something.
Yep. All right, moving along. The second game of the evening was Ikhlas versus Ridda, and this was built up to be a really major game for the season. In fact, before the game started, a lot of the guys were talking, as they were warming up, and they're like, "Hey, this feels like a playoff game. A lot of tension, a lot of stress." But the game ended up being, I mean, it was fun to watch, but it also had a lot of penalties.
Oh yeah.
In the end, Ikhlas won 5-3, but Ridda's team was not very happy with how things went. Hanan, what
But
did you make out
to
of
be
this?
honest, I mean, Ridda has no excuse because if you really think about it, the penalties, I think there was 6 penalties for Ikhlas and 5 for Ridda. So given that, or given how close the amount of penalties are, it's still like for like. You can't just say, oh, we had all these bad calls against us. That's not how hockey works.
Mhm.
There's no point in arguing with the ref once you get a penalty. Just move on and just start organizing your team. This game looked a lot closer because it was 5-3, but in reality, I think the last 2 goals from Ridda happened in the last maybe 3 minutes of the game, at which point, they started to rally, but it was way too late. And this is the fundamental problem that every team has. And honestly, I will say this because, GMs can say whatever they want, but I think every GM except Suburb lost to Ikhlas. So here's the trick. You will not have your first line against Ikhlas compete against them head to head. Never will that happen. They are too fast. Their cardio is too top notch. And if you think that you can have your first line play as many minutes as their first line, you are going to get burned. And to be honest, that's what happened to Ridda. 3 of the 4 goals, or 4 of the 5 goals, happened with the first line or members of the first line on. And they're looking at each other like, they're a good team. No, this is where depth comes into play. You're not going to win with your first line. You need to run your second, run your third, and have the confidence that at the very least, they're going to stop Green's first line from scoring, because all Green's goal scoring is coming from that first line. You
Yeah.
suppress that, you're solid.
Whoa, that was a lot. Those are fighting words, Hanan.
Hanan knows.
I can't be traded
Listen,
anymore.
exactly. The trade
I
deadline
know.
is done with.
It feels like he's still frustrated from last Friday.
But
And
Hanan, you realize that they can't trade you, but they can still bench you.
It'll be a lot of too many men penalties then if I'm on that bench. I tell you that much.
and apparently Hanan has videos of everybody. He's dubbed movies, and like he's really just made an effort to, he's a media team member within a media team member on that team.
I
Nice.
encourage my team to do better, and sometimes poking at them is the best way to do it.
Okay, so obviously this was a highly built game.
Mhm.
Some of the players saw the drone flying, and also like we had the GoPro set up. I don't think that we have the goals probably lined up already, right? So we may throw those up on Instagram later on. That being said, so this was a very hard fought game, and I'm going to point out a couple of things. Number one is Blue actually scored the first goal, right? Ridda scored the first goal. It was RC with this weird acrobatic flip over the goalie, and the ball went in the net. And unfortunately, he got injured, and I don't think he played after that. Right? Am I right, Hanan?
Yeah, 3 minutes into the game, injured.
Exactly. So you have a huge loss right there. So that's number one. That was the first thing, right? And then I think that Ridda let the game get away from them emotionally somewhat. And it's not that Ikhlas didn't participate, right? But I think that Ikhlas, the people that participated in the extracurricular activities are not the people that they needed on the floor. If, like we have one guy, and obviously we're not going to name any names, but we have one guy who spent more time in the penalty box than he did playing on the floor, right? And so, clearly, Ikhlas was able to perform without him, but it was their big boys, right? It was their big boys, and you have Hamza, who I believe scored 2 goals on 2 consecutive plays. And they were both, very grindy goals in front of the net. You have Shariar, right, who played excellent. I think he's super underrated. I don't think he gets talked about enough, but he contributed as well. And it was just a very sound, positionally a good game. And I was actually speaking to some of the GMs afterwards, and I was like, is it possible that we put too much pressure on them leading into this game, and we hyped it up, and we set up GoPros, and I flew the drone, and is it possible that we unnerved some nerves there? And it's possible, right? Especially the guys who are not used to performing on a big stage, right? Or maybe not used to going to finals or playing tier 1, so on and so forth. And maybe we got under the skin a little bit, and maybe we need to scale it back.
I was talking to, or I was more like I was listening to players on Ridda. They were talking about after the game, they were expressing their frustration with the refereeing. And I know it's it's easy to blame the refs all the time, but a lot of people agree that the refereeing was quite inconsistent. Calls that were going to one side were not going to another side, etc., or not in the same manner. And you know what? The second half in the beginning was quite embarrassing. Both teams were just flopping all over the place, trying to draw penalties. You're not going to get penalties drawn like that by embarrassing the refs.
16 minutes of penalties from Ikhlas, 12 minutes from Ridda. So, like I said, no excuses from Ridda's side. If your special units can't produce, you better get other players on there to produce for you.
But these were stupid penalties. Like, let's just get this out of the way, right?
Yeah.
These were,
Yeah.
quite
Agreed.
frankly,
Agreed.
they were idiotic penalties. These were not penalties that happened in the course of a game. Like, for instance, I think when we get to it, Ehsan took 7 penalties in their game. Most of them were tripping penalties, or I think there was like one body checking penalty, but these were penalties that you take in the course of a game. I looked at the footage, and the penalties that were taken by both sides were really unnecessary, and like shows like a lack of control and just a loss of your emotional well being, I guess, in that moment. So we'll speak to that point a little bit later on, but I think that and to the point, right? I think that Ikhlas was up 4-1. And then Ridda was able to score 2 quick goals on, again, 2 consecutive plays right off the face-off. But it just wasn't enough. And to Hanan's point is that, you need to be able to strategize and not chase them around. Once you chase them around, you lose position, and they're so good at seeing the floor, and it's over at that point.
I think I even overheard Sajid at one point. I didn't hear the full conversation, but on the bench, he was letting one of his players have it. He's like, this was a selfish play that you did to draw this penalty, not draw it, but take the penalty. It's like, don't do that, right? So he was also trying to calm his squad down and make sure that they weren't taking these kind of silly penalties. All right, let's move along, guys. We spent quite a bit of time on these couple of games. I think, where are we? We already talked about this one, so we won't rehash that. It was a 5-5 draw between Suburb and Taqwa. And then the last game of the night was Iman versus Ehsan. And this was a 3-0 win by Orange over Red. Adil Jahan being the first star. Omar, you played in this game. What are your thoughts?
So, I mean, again, this game I think was a lot closer than the score would maybe indicate. So the first goal, it came off of an odd man rush. I mean, I'll start off actually by acknowledging and saying that this was Imran's Alavi's first game back from the time that he had his procedure. And all right, thanks, Arif. You already put that comment up. You'll have to put it up again.
I figure it's more relevant now.
Yes. So, in any case, it was his first game, his first Islam game back, and he really did play his heart out for us. Unfortunately, we didn't give him the support that he needed when it came to playing our defensive coverage. We took a lot of bad penalties, 7 penalties in that game, and they were just really stupid, really bad penalties. I think, in my opinion. Penalties that put us down. Like the first goal was a 5-on-4. The third goal was a 5-on-3. And so there's not like how much can you ask of your goalie in those situations? So, kudos to Imran. He battled hard for us. He did his best, and we just couldn't get anything. And again, a huge shout out and acknowledgement to Khalid Mufti. I was curving the shot left. I was curving the shot right. I was curving the shot up, and I couldn't beat him. Right, and so he had a stellar game. And kudos to Orange, and I think Adil had a point on, or was a participant in every single goal. So he's definitely come alive. And
7 points in the last 2 games since he got traded. So clearly that was a good trade for Iman.
And it's a good time for Iman's secondary units like Vasim Kagzi to step up, and even the scoring open with Zahid Hussein. So amazing goal staying in front of the net. But this is a game where the power play, the special units dominated. And as Omar Isawi said, 2 of the goals, both from Vasim Kagzi, all on the power play. So, you got to tighten it up a little bit. You got to understand your assignments. Mm-hmm. But this is a game where, to be honest, from my perspective, Omar, I know, the shots were the same. It honestly looked like Iman was dominating the majority of this game, in the sense that it felt like it was more quality plays in the offensive zone for Iman than there was quality plays for Ehsan in the offensive zone.
Yeah, I agree. When you spend 14 minutes out of a 30-minute game on the power play, then you are going to have more offensive zone time, right?
Mhm.
And again, it's our fault. We did it to ourselves in the sense that we took penalties, and it's not like I thought personally the refing was pretty consistent in our game. I didn't have any issue. The penalties that they call were penalties,
Mhm.
and it is what it is. Again, like I mentioned in the beginning, when Hamza is away, I think that our lines, definitely I get a little bit jumbled, and I don't think we're the same team. And
Yeah.
and I
It's
think
hard
we
to
also had
replace a
tried,
guy like that, right?
yeah, we
Here-
also
Here's
tried to play Kadir on the second line, right? And
here's the one thing I will say. Sorry to cut you off. I want to just state this out because I don't think one of the players on Isan is definitely performing up to par because you have one player who has 5 penalties in that game. Looking at the score sheet, and
How
I'm
can
not
you
saying
have
anything, but he
penalties?
must be tripping because majority of these calls were all tripping calls
Wait,
from
but how can you
Yusuf.
have 5 penalties? If you get 3, you get kicked out of the game.
I'm looking at. Oh no, sorry, those are Solomon. So no, sorry. So apparently all the Yusufs were getting penalties. There was two from. There's 3 Yusuf Solomon penalties, which I think he got ejected at the
You
end,
got ejected, yeah.
and then Yusuf Saudargar had 2 penalties. Okay, so I saw Yusuf, and I just like I
Okay.
don't know what game he's playing.
So
No wonder you guys
speaking
are shorthanded.
speaking of Soldegar here, I know he was um, teasing last last week with Jihad saying that, hey, if I lose, I'm gonna quit. All of a sudden, from the WhatsApp group, he did quit. Is that the reason why he quit, or is there
To be
something
honest, the
else
way
going
he
on?
was playing this game, I thought he already quit.
haha, you guys are hilarious. Well, the fact that Jihad chose not to show up really it invalidates any agreement that they had. I am the legal counsel for Mr.
Yes.
Sodiger, and and yeah. So I mean, again, is if Jihad was there, I don't know. We have lost by more.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a great game from Orange. Again, just I think you already acknowledged him, but I mentioned last week that Vasim Kagzi is super underrated,
Hmm.
and I think that we should put some respect on his name more often.
No, Wasim is a great defenseman. Like you said, underrated. He plays hard. He always see him and a couple of other guys I've noticed. They get picked later in the draft, but
Yep.
once you get them on your team, the GMs don't want to trade them. They don't want to get rid of them. They give them big penalty minutes.
They're steals. They're absolute steals
Yeah,
when they
yeah.
go. Yeah,
That's the mark of a valuable asset on your team.
I'm agreed.
Yeah. And then that's pretty consistent for someone like Vasim, right? Someone like Vasim's always picked in the middle somewhere, and he always, I think, in my opinion, outperforms his draft position.
Yep.
So speaking of valuable assets, this gentleman here, Adil Johan, 3 assists, winning 3-0 for his team. He earns the One World Halal Player of the Week honors. So congratulations, Adil.
Congrats, man.
You are the man.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
he seems to be really happy.
I know. Look at that smile. We haven't seen that smile since week 6.
Oh man. Or maybe he just saw Saqib. That's why he's so happy.
Who wouldn't be at that point?
All right. I think the transactions we already talked about. I was actually surprised that only Yellow made all the trades. There was no other trades that happened. I think there was a lot of talk. Omar, you would know. I mean, you're in the OC chat room. Are there any other transactions you are at liberty to sharing with us that might have happened?
I don't know if I'm allowed to speak to those, but maybe after the season when we do I don't know if we ever do like a recap of that, we can maybe speak to some of the things that were in the pipeline, but
Okay.
I don't know if I'm at liberty to say.
All right. Well, just to remind the audience that all these trades that happened, they will take effect immediately. So as of Friday, all the players will be playing on their new teams. Of course, we already covered this one, the big blockbuster trade. And that brings us to announcements. So, Omar, I'll give you the floor on this.
Sure. So it's the same idea, guys, as last week. So you can enter from the main doors. The hangar, specifically the individuals that manage the rink, they have asked for QR codes and cannot guarantee entry if you don't have your QR code. And just a reminder again, we've been pretty good with this, I think, is guys completing the self-assessment by 3 p.m. Iman will typically send out a reminder on Friday as well. So just if it's really easy, it takes 30 seconds. Get it done so that you're not in a position where you may not be able to play if you miss that deadline. One other thing that I wanted to say before we jump into the previews, and I don't want to take up too much time with this. But there was a couple of incidences last week that I would define as non-brotherhood incidences. And I think one thing that kind of upset me a little bit, or it kind of took me aback, really disturbed me for the rest of the evening, was one of the refs. He looked at one of the other players, and he inquired, and he said, "You guys are Muslim, right?" And I didn't know if he was just genuinely curious or if he was trying to point out that maybe our behavior wasn't reflective of what Muslims are supposed to behave like. And I just want to take this opportunity to remind everyone that we are, the league is literally called Islam. Um, we share the facilities with non-Muslims, and I would hate for it to be the first interaction that they have or the first observation that they have with a Muslim in person is one where they observe people using foul language or pushing each other or fighting with each other. I think that we're better than this, and I think that efforts should be made specifically for communicating. The GMs need to communicate to their teams what the behavioral expectations are. And the last thing I'll say is, there's nothing wrong with trash talking someone. There's nothing wrong, and I'm going to give this example, and I hope he doesn't mind. And if he does, you can let me know. I'll apologize next week. But I've known Zayd Tarawa since he was 10 years old. Okay. And he is a person that when he wants to will peel your skin off of your body with what he says. But I've never heard him swear at anyone, personally speaking. And he's trash talked me. He's never sworn at me. But he will point out things like, oh, you got deked out. Oh, you should go back and practice, whatever it is. And those things are fine. That's gamesmanship. Mm-hmm. But it's not appropriate, I think, to curse at someone else or to call them any sort of derogatory name or anything like that. Like, that is not acceptable. And I don't think that that's appropriate. And so I would remind everybody to really do some introspection, right? Some self-reflection, and ask yourself, when you come in, this is a Muslim league. We're playing with your brothers in Islam, and the expectation is that you behave in a manner that is consistent with those values. And so, a reminder to myself first and foremost. But I can tell you that I was not happy with some of the things that I observed the previous week, and my hope is that we can correct that moving forward, inshallah.
Inshallah.
No, well said. It's a good reminder for everyone. Yeah, like we sometimes let the emotions get the best of us, and we think, oh, it's just friendly. We'll go and apologize after. Yeah, you can do that, but it still affects the brotherhood aspect of things. So, moving on. So here we have the games for this week. Now, we already talked about Iman and Suburb. So we'll go to the next one, which is Taqwa and Ehsan, and this is going to be game number 2. Anan, what's your predictions here? And then I'll go to Omar.
Yeah, so quickly on this one is that, we have one team that's slightly trending upwards and you have one team that's starting to trend downwards. So this is going to be a meeting of minds where we're going to really see Ehsan, hopefully if everyone shows up, put to the test against Taqwa's reinvented team. As you saw, they shuffled 4 players. And this is the pinnacle moment where, to be honest, I'll tell you this right now. It is a steep hill, Taqwa, from getting out of that 4th position, because I believe they're 5 points behind the other teams. With that said, don't look at the standings at this point. Just focus on your internal game. Focus on improving as a team, because you are going to face Green. You're going to face Ikhlas, and you're going to want to make sure that you're ready for that game and understand your assignments when it comes to that. Whereas, Ehsan, this is a way to understand the pieces like Kadir that you got from the past, start understanding how to best utilize them and how to evolve as a team and move forward as well. Because, to be honest, all the offense we've seen from Ehsan has come from Hamza. Although I will say, we did see the offense from Furqan as well. But I think, shuffle it around. To be honest, I feel like, Omar Sawi, you're on this team. I feel like the team needs to leverage you a little bit more. Like you've been known from previous seasons to have an amazing shot. And that's might be all it takes, is that leverage your defense, get that shot on net, and, good things can happen.
No, I agree with you. I'm just going to circle back to some of the comments that Arif threw up. And so I think Bench Squad is asking who has the best clean trash talk in Islam. And so, in my experience, at least, I'm going to give that to. I think that Ridda has three of the best trash talkers in Islam. Right, you'll have your Zaytrawa, you have your Faraz Alvi, and I think a very underrated trash talker is Zuhair Fancy.
Zuhair is very subtle with it, though. That's what
Exactly.
hurts.
Right. Which is what makes it annoying, right? Because, it's like that kid in class who like does something to you quietly, but then you overreact and then you get in trouble with the teacher. Right. So, to go back, but again, it's fair, right? I think, RC spun off me and scored a goal when we faced Ridda, and I did not hear the end of it for the entire game from those three. Right. Like Faraz, every time he saw me, he's like, "Hey, look over there, your jock strap's on the floor." Right. And right. And you take it, right? Because it happened and it is what it is, but he's not insulting me.
Yeah.
So yeah, to that point, to the point, sorry, that we're talking about. So Taqwa versus Ehsan. I think this is going to come down to attendance,
Mhm.
right? And I think that Ehsan made a big trade the previous week. And I think that it's going to be really important that they figure out, okay, well, who's showing up and how do we arrange our lines to best address this, right? Because I think now, in my opinion, I think that Taqwa's firepower now has moved to the back end a little bit with Mo Mantra. And so it's going to be a situation where it's like, as a defenseman, there's nothing really I can do apart from block the shot. I have to make sure that the forwards don't let the shot happen in the first place. So it's going to come down to talking strategy.
Yeah.
This is also a very critical game for Ehsan, by the way, because right now, I believe Ehsan and Hayah are tied, with Hayah having the tiebreaker. So this is a must-win game for Ehsan, and so is the game against Hayah the following week. Because if they're able to win those two games, the likelihood that Ehsan will secure the second seed is much higher. I think this game has pretty big implications for Ehsan specifically.
Yeah.
I think Taqwa has to win out their games, and one of the other teams have to lose all their games for them to even get to the third seed.
Right. It's
Right.
also
So I don't think the top two seeds are within Taqwa's reach right now.
It's also going to be interesting to see Taqwa play this game because it'll be the first game with their new look lineup, right? Four new players that came, including a new goalie. So it'll be very interesting to see how they can fit those pieces in and hopefully improve. But as our friend Habibi always says, trust the process. He's
That's
not
the
wrong. They've gone from 0 points at least getting 1 point, so that's a step in the right direction at least.
Yeah, I mean, if you play in any other league, right, the bring your own team leagues, right, you have guys that don't show up until like the last two games of the season because everybody says all that matters is the playoffs in ball hockey, right? So if that's the case, if I had to pick a horse, an underrated horse to make it, it would be Taqwa.
Yeah, but the only thing is you can't necessarily always expect that playoffs everyone will show up and will win because all the teams are going to show up literally. And if your other teams have been playing with that squad, they already have a little bit more chemistry and gel, right? You can't expect people not to show up and then the most important game of the season, everybody shows up and everybody gels together. That's asking for a lot.
I agree.
Yeah. All right, so the third game of the evening will be Jaquin versus Ridda. So this is white versus blue. Blue obviously coming off of a very tough match last week, and Jaquin just struggling, one goal a game here. Hanan, what's going to happen here?
To be honest, I'm not too pleased with the way Jaquin's been playing. I think their season.
Pleased. You're not even on their team. Who cares if you're not pleased?
No, he's using his analyst hat.
He's not impressed.
I'm not impressed. I'm not pleased because I would expect better. I know in the beginning of the few seasons, I've always said Jaquin's the type of team that can steal wins from like great teams. But the way they've been playing thus far, you're not even seeing that. You're seeing the top goalie or the first overall picked goalie in the league absolutely being demolished over the last two games. It is a bit of a reset for Jaquin as well, where they're going to need to have all three GMs come back and figure out realistically how they're going to get by Ridda, Suburb, Iman, because these are all three dominating teams. And it's okay, to be honest, if Jaquin loses, because going into the playoffs, they need to understand how each of these teams are playing, how they're winning against Jaquin, and find a strategy to beat them again. Let them get overconfident against Jaquin and crush them in the playoffs. But I want to see them do better, but at this time, I don't realistically see that. And I think Ridda, with the trade with Cleo Coker, they just got more firepower now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that this is an uphill battle for Jaquin, and again, it comes down to their attendance. If they don't have their, they don't have Arsol and their GMs specifically showing up, is his name Asif Bika?
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So he wasn't he their second round pick?
Third
He's leading their team in scoring.
Right. So I think that they brought Furkan and they brought Wahaj on to sort of balance their lines, but they're not going to get the opportunity to do that if people keep not showing up. And to Arif's point is that you want to see what you have from all three lines so that you understand what you can and cannot do in the playoffs, because there's a tendency to shorten the bench. And we've seen time and time again is that teams will shorten the bench. Well, all teams not named Ikhlas, right, will try, they'll shorten their bench and they get too tired to play. Right. And that's the reality, right? Like how many times has Ikhlas played with two players on their bench, and like completely look like they look like they had the whole team.
Yep.
But I would challenge you guys to find another team that can play with one or two guys on the bench, and still perform. And so you have to know what you have. It's not possible, right? In the playoffs, everybody's exerting themselves far more than they are in the regular season. And you need quick shifts.
But to be clear, Ikhlas did lose with two players on their bench. Their only loss came when they were actually missing people. So even a mighty green machine will lose if they don't have enough people.
Yeah, but I don't think they had. Well, again, I'm not justifying anything they did lose, right? But I'm just saying that I don't think they had I don't think Razi was there, and I don't think one of their GMs was there either, right? So I'm saying that if they have their top 5 players with 2 guys on the bench, I think that they look better than any other team that would be in the same position.
Hanan, with Ridda, you're getting Khalil Kokar, and I had the pleasure of playing with him on my line, and the brother is really good in terms of a finisher. Where do you think he's going to be slotted into the lineup?
I think inshallah, RC comes back and he makes a full recovery in himself. I think Khalil Coker would bring a huge asset to the second line, maybe playing with the Claire brothers, where you have 2 fast guys who can make space, make speed. And Khalil himself, we've seen him create space on his own as well. And then you got that you got an incredible shot. So I would not be surprised to see him on the second line or even round out the third line. The one thing I like about Ridda is that they do run all 3 lines. And all 3 lines do produce. I think one of their top goal scorers right now is Amr Wasif, who plays on the third line. So, they're not afraid to bring out any of the lines. And I think that was probably one of the errors that they made against Ikhlas, is that they hesitated and they got burned for that.
Yeah.
I heard that they have a center that they're looking to displace. You wouldn't know anything about that, Hanan, would you?
Red shorts?
Red shorts?
Yeah, I heard that he wears red shorts. I heard that, I heard that he's not Salman's biggest fan.
Someone's I don't know. It might have been Faraz Alvi for all we know.
Oh, okay.
Well, speaking of shorts, the last game of the night, Hayah versus Ikhlas, will actually host a whole bunch of green shorts, right? Obviously the ones from Ikhlas, but also Hayah's newest members in Baba and BJ. So this should also be a very interesting game if, again, everyone shows up. This might be a good opportunity for Hayah to really make a statement to say that, nope, we can play against the team, league's best team. We can hold our own and perhaps even win.
I like Hayah. I like that what Baba and BJ bring. The one thing I'm concerned about, and I saw Baba play 2 weeks ago, he missed last week's game, is that he looks like he gained a little bit of weight. And when I say a little bit, is that I know he's recently married the brother, but I don't know if he got married 4 or 5 times, because that's a lot of extra weight that I thought he put on. And I don't feel like we've seen the same Bubba that we typically see in past seasons. So I'm wondering if if he's not up to speed yet, if he still needs to
body shame people and not
body shaming people. I'm married. I know what he went
through. This is a family podcast.
I'm just saying his wives are great cooks, but
anyways, I'm just gonna cut you off here.
What?
Yeah, he's just making it worse. Okay,
put the shovel down, man.
So look, I'm gonna tell you guys. I'm gonna give you guys a little. Put that comment up, Arif.
Hey, round is a shape from last I checked. Okay,
So I can give you guys a little bit of inside information here, and I can tell you that Lukman is very motivated to play this game.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, Lukman is very motivated. He's actually instructed me to bring the GoPros for the game on Friday. I didn't realize it was an 11 p.m. game, so I might leave the GoPros with you guys. But uh, this is, I think, set to be a very explosive matchup. I think that the familiarity of last week was part maybe the storyline, but I think basically Lukman's challenge and desire to show what his team can do is going to be a storyline here. And I can tell you, having played on Lukman's team, is that he expects people to run. He expects intensity. Almost the same things really that Sajid expects from his player.
Yeah.
Right. And I would dare to say that I think that they're very similar in the way that they manage teams. But
Now,
I think this is definitely going to be a game to watch.
let me ask you, Omar. Is some of this intensity fueled by some trash talk that might have happened in other forums?
Oh, I'd have to ask Lukman about that. Maybe Sajid or another GM. I can't speak to that, but all I can say is that both teams, I think, specifically both GMs, are very highly motivated to play this game on Friday.
And I think if I had to say, in terms of quality GMs, I've always said, Lukman's been one of the top GMs out there in the sense that he knows he does, good matchups against his opponents. And from what I've been hearing from, the players on Ikhlas, a lot of them love the way Sajid has been GMing. So this is going to be a battle of minds and not just only players to see what they actually do. And I'm curious to see how the line matching goes or how each team rolls their lines.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, keep in mind, right, is that Hayah in particular has a very deep defense, right? So you have Lukman, you have I believe Hamoudi's been playing defense, and you have Salman Khalid, and you have Omar Din, and so that is a very formidable defensive core, and what I observed last week from their game against Ridda was that they had a lot of trouble clearing the front of the net. Yeah. Whether it was Saqib Kokar, whether it was Razi, whether it was Hamza Chaudhry, Ridda had a lot of trouble clearing the front of the net. And I think what you get with Hayah is you get very big, giant defensemen that I think can quite easily shift a couple of feet and move somebody out of the way if they want to. So it's going to be interesting. Let's see how it goes.
And last thing I wanted to mention is all these games, they're very important because they're all within their own division. So these are like 4-point games. So it really moves the needle quite a bit in terms of where the final standings end up being.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe Hayah, the entire league will count on Hayah to maybe demonstrate how to beat Ikhlas here. Because let's be honest, Ikhlas, hats off to them. They've had a tremendous season. People can complain as much as they want about them being overpowered in terms of their GMs or how they choose to run their lines, but no doubt they've been the best team in the league and in every stat category pretty much. And one thing I will say to also stand up for them is, as much as a lot of people say that they play mostly their first line players a lot, it should be noted that the second and third line players, when I speak to them, they're actually not unhappy. They've always said that no, they're fine. We get enough play time. We play where we need to play. No one within the team is complaining. It's everyone outside. So is that just a case of haters gonna hate?
Overconfidence is a slow and insidious killer, and we see that against all the other GMs and first lines out there trying to match, time for time against Ikhlas.
Mm-hmm. Well, on that note, we will see what will happen here on Friday. Looking forward to it. You gentlemen, you are all going to be there?
Yep, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Inshallah, good. All right, gentlemen, thank you again for joining us, and thank you all the commenters and our audience. Inshallah, we will see you all on Friday.
All right, you guys. Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum.